Saving America one entrepreneur at a time, it's the Biz Wrap Podcast with your host, Michael Manahan. The show that celebrates small business and entrepreneurs, it's Biz Wrap Radio with your host, small businessman, educator, and author, Michael Manahan. And welcome to another edition of Biz Wrap Radio. I am your host, Michael Manahan, and thank you so much for joining me today. We have, as always, an absolutely tremendous show lined up for you today. If you're new to Biz Wrap Radio, we are the show all about small business and entrepreneurs. Yes, small business and entrepreneurs. Do you realize that small business people are the lifeblood of America? Yes, that's correct. Most people in the United States actually work for a small business. As we've been pulling out of this recession, most of the new jobs are created by small businesses. I encourage everybody to be a small business person, and that means, you can have a job. That's okay. You can still have a job and be a business person, and in fact, today, many people are doing just that. They have a full-time job or even a part-time job. They're working in corporate America. Maybe they're working for a big corporation, or they're working for the government. Fine. That gives you a paycheck. But you know what? In their spare time, they're not sitting around watching television reruns. They're not sitting in the pub drinking beer. What they're doing is they're running their own little small business. They're generating additional income for themselves and their family. And if you're not doing that, well, you should be doing it. Small business is where it's at. Be an entrepreneur, but here at Biz Wrap Radio, we're looking out for the small business people in America because there's a war on. You may not realize it. No, it's not the war on poverty. It's not the war on drugs. It's the war on small business. The government is out to strangle small business in this country over regulation like there's no tomorrow. The cost of opening a business is going up and up and up because of over-regulation. On top of that, you've got the big corporations gunning for you. Yeah, the big corporations, they're not the friend of small business. They'd like to put you out of business. You know, how many small businesses did Home Depot, Staples, Costco, et cetera, put out of business? So the big corporations aren't your friend. And you know who else isn't your friend? The big banks. Yeah, that's right. The big banks aren't your friend. No. Oh, yeah, you see all these billboards and television ads about how these big banks are looking out and trying to help small businesses. But really what they want to do is they want to give you a credit line on your credit card, a $50,000 or $100,000 credit card, and then you miss one payment, and they're going to jack the interest rates up to 27%. And by the way, I just heard of an individual, American Express, missed one payment on his American Express card, carries about a $25,000 balance. One payment, American Express jacked the rate up to 27%. Now, I thought in this country, if you charged interest rates like that, it was called usury, and you could go to jail. But apparently it's perfectly legal for these big banks to screw small business people on their credit card. So here at Biz Wrap Radio, we're looking out for you. We're trying to help you run your small business more effectively and the key word, more profitably. I want you small business people out there to be making tons of money. Yeah, profits, they're not a bad word. That's not a dirty word, profits. We need you to make profits. Take care of your family, take care of your employees, and take care of your community. Yeah, the reason you're making profits is not so you can write a big fat check to Washington, although they're going to ask you for one, but really you want to make a profit so you can do good with the people you know, the people you work with, and the people in your community. And I see that all across America as I talk to business people. Small businesses really getting involved in helping out the local community, and they do it because it comes from the heart of the small business person. It's not because it's an advertising opportunity. So, when Coca-Cola puts up that sign at your local 10K race, That's an advertising opportunity for Coca-Cola. They're really not interested in the small community. But when your local dry cleaner, your local muffler shop, your local auto body repair shop, when they put up a banner at the local 10K, they really are interested in being involved in helping out your community. Well, as usual on BizRap Radio, we do have a guest today, and our guest is talking about something that is really dear to my heart because, I've been around in business a long time, and I've seen the way we do business change. And, some of it's for the better, the fact that we can now use technology to be more effective, that we can work a lot more efficiently with the technology we have. We can do a better job for our clients and our customers with technology. But at the same time, I think we've lost something. And that something has to do with the human interaction and how humans interact. So today as my guest, I've got Miss Grace Etsuko Lee. She's an author, speaker, international businesswoman, president of Grace Lee International. And Grace is an expert on the social etiquette of business. Grace, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Not a problem. This is a topic that is dear to my heart because I think, I'm not sure why this has happened. I'm not a psychologist. I don't profess to be. But something has changed in the way we do business. When I moved to the United States, which was 25 years ago, yes, I'm an immigrant, a legal immigrant, by the way, but I moved to the United States 25 years ago. If I called somebody on the phone, and of course that was before cell phones, but if I called somebody and I left a message, I would say 99% of the time I would get a call back. Today, I would say that I can call people and maybe 30% of the time I'm going to get a call back. That is a change in the way we do business, and to me that's an etiquette issue. Is that the kind of stuff that you're talking about, or am I missing the mark altogether, Grace?
No, that's part of it. Etiquette is how you act, how you treat people, and it's the how-to of I guess business and your behavior. So yes, that is part of it. And going back to you said, well, you know what happened? I know what happened. I know what happened when the etiquette went away. It was about 40 years ago, and it's when we, as women, we were sent to work. It was like, you can go to work. You can be like the men and make your own money and so forth. So we all went out there to work. And who was there to teach our children social graces? When we come home from work, we had to cook and clean and do the same thing we had to do even if we didn't go to work. So when do you teach your children social graces? Well, that's what happened. It's like what we were told was give quality time. 10 minutes, 15 minutes of quality time with your children is all they need. It's like, okay, we were lied to.
Yeah, it takes a lot. It takes a lot more than 10 minutes spent with your kids for them to adopt an understanding of what I would call the cultural niceties that we deploy in society. But I also think something else has happened. I think part of the problem is that kids, particularly in the last 20 years, increasingly spend their time in front of a screen of some sort, whether it's a computer screen or a television screen. All seem to blend together. Now it's a cell phone, as opposed to actually interacting one-on-one or in a group with other people. And it takes being and working and being around other people in order to learn over time how to deploy some of those social graces.
Absolutely, and that's where it starts. It starts at home, and that's the part that we're missing now. We're expecting the schools to teach. It doesn't work that way. You have to start from home, and then it spills over. And of course, the etiquette part has to be taught. Somebody has to teach you. Business etiquette has to be taught. You didn't just learn it, on your own. Some people just watch other people. Like I've met some very successful men that dress very nicely and make them look attractive and successful. And I go, well, where did you learn that? Well, he goes, a friend of mine that was very successful. I watched him, and I watched the way he ate, he walked, and everything else, and he picked that up, and that, there he is. He's doing success himself, but it has to be taught. So.
Okay. So if it has to be taught, now of course we got a lot of people on who listen to my radio show who are what I call self-learners.
Right.
They don't need to sit down with somebody else. They could read a book or they could watch a video and pick it up, and they're anxious to get information on how to do things better, particularly in the business world. Because frankly, and I'm a college professor, I teach at Cal State Dominguez Hills, teach accounting and finance. I'm not sure we do a great job of teaching things like business etiquette to our students. So I want to get into this a little more detail with you, but we're coming up here on a commercial break, so we're going to go to commercial break. When we come back, we'll talk more about this. It is Mike Manahan, Biz Rap Radio, talking to Miss Grace Etsuko Lee, author, speaker, international businesswoman, president of Grace Lee International, and we'll be back with more on business etiquette right after this. And welcome back to Biz Rap Radio. We are the show all about small business and entrepreneurs. And today we are talking to Miss Grace Etsuko Lee. She is an expert on business etiquette. Now, Grace, before we get into the meat of business etiquette, I'm sure some people are listening to us want to know, how can I find out more? So if somebody is interested in perhaps looking at your materials, finding out about you, having you as a speaker, where can they get a hold of you? What's the best thing to do?
Well, the best thing is go to businessetiquettemastery.com. That is the place where you can, one, get my ebook, and two, you'll get information on how to get in contact with me.
Okay, fantastic.
Business,
so that's businessetiquettemastery.com. Businessetiquettemastery.com. Definitely go there and check out the website. Buy Grace's book, for God's sake. For a few dollars, it'll help you do business better. So, Grace, let's talk about business etiquette for a minute. Where do you start? What's one of the first things you would start discussing with somebody in terms of talking about business etiquette?
The first thing is first impression. When you're in business, you're in sales, and if you don't look good, your hygiene is not good, your clothes doesn't fit right, your body posture is off. People make a decision if they're going to buy or give you money or get you a job or anything like that just by your first impression before you even say a word. Isn't that true? You get somebody walking down the street, halfway down the block, you make a decision if you want to cross the street or not, right?
Well, I think that's human nature. I mean, we have to do that. I know people say, "Oh, you shouldn't stereotype and you shouldn't, you shouldn't prejudge and all the rest." But if we didn't prejudge, life would be so much more complicated. Just think about this: if every time you saw fire, you had to stick your finger into it to determine whether or not it was hot, life would be a pretty unpleasant experience. We learn from our experiences, and some of it's cultural, some of it's experiential, some of it's what we see on TV. But at the end of the day, people make judgments, and that's just the reality of it. Now, you can run around all day long saying people make judgments, but that's not going to change the reality. People make judgments, so what you're saying is you need to be conscious of that, and you need to make sure when people make a judgment about you, it's a favorable one.
Yeah, and if you go and make a sale and you never hear from that person again, that the person, the customer, it could be that you were rude to them, or you did something, and nobody is going to let you know that you've been rude to them. Only your best friends. Okay, everybody else, they don't want confrontation, so they just ignore you, get you out of their life. So the most important is look at yourself. Look at look how you're treating people. Your body posture. Well, your body posture can say, I'm not successful. I'm not going to make this sale. It's all these kind of different things as you can tell, right? So when I do in my workshop is I videotape people when they come in the door, and you could tell just by the way they walk in the door if they're happy, if they're positive about themselves. Do you like them? If you like them or not. We all sit there and look at it. So, do you like that person that just walked in that door? It's like, no. Or yes. Oh, that person looks happy. That person looks confident. So that's key, because that's going to let people know if they're going to buy or give you that money, investment capital.
Okay, so I'm just thinking about this. Let's say a listener out there is wondering to themselves, I wonder what my first impression is when somebody meets me for the first time. How would you suggest that somebody start measuring that if they want to get an honest, true opinion from somebody as to what kind of a first impression they make, so they can start to make changes if needed? How do they go about doing that? Is there a methodology you've devised?
Well, I do it in my workshop, but and I use videos, and of course we go through the process of looking at your clothing and your posture, how you walk, and everything else. But you could do the same thing at home. Get yourself a video. Have somebody videotape you. And look at the way you walk. Look at the way you carry yourself. Look at the way the clothes hang on you, your hair, all those kind of different things. And you should be able to look at yourself and go, okay, I need to be, that tummy that I have that is bulging out, I need to kind of hide it a little bit, because that's where everybody's eyes go first thing, type of thing.
Yeah.
So and maybe you walk in and there's a different kind of, there's different kinds of walks.
Right. Right.
So look at your walk.
So I think so that's a good idea. Get a videotape, and maybe also ask a few friends just some honest opinions. I know
don't be hurt.
I had a friend of mine, and he actually he asked me one time. He said, because I typically dress. I'm still a little old fashioned. You're going to find me most of the time pair of slacks, a dress shirt. At least a sports jacket, often a tie. But this particular friend of mine was known to be a person who wore jeans. Right. And he one day asked me, he said, Mike, do you think me wearing jeans, affects kind of my ability to do some business? And I said, it's okay to wear jeans, but I said, look at somebody like a Steve Jobs. He's got, a $200 pair of jeans. He's got a $500 sports jacket on. I said, your jeans look like you bought them at the Salvation Army. They're dirty. They've got holes in them. They don't fit well. I said, there's jeans and there's jeans. It's the same thing about, the thing that really bothers me on an etiquette basis is people who wear dirty ties. If you've got a tie that's got spaghetti stains on it, throw it in the trash.
Oh, absolutely. I have to tell you a story about my son. This is like 20 years ago. He was about 19, and he had some business in Hungary. He had some property that was given to him that he needed to sell. So he goes to the bank, and but he's dressed in his shorts with those big baggy pockets on the side, with a flip-flop and T-shirt. And it's Arizona. He's in Arizona, so he's hot. It's hot. So he walks in the bank. The bank is busy. Everybody's running around. He said he stood there about 15 minutes. He didn't need the teller, so he was waiting for these, the executives that are sitting down there, and nobody paid attention to him. So he said about 15, 20 minutes, he got upset. He left. He came home, and he said, I remember what Mom said, wore his dress pants, dress shoes, and his shirt, put his nice belt on, and went back. And he said they were just as busy, but within a minute, the same lady that was too busy to even look up before looked up at him, walked up to him, even though she had somebody in front of the desk, walks up to him and said, "May I help you? May I help you, sir?" he says he was almost ready to scream, but he said yes. And she sat him down and said that she'll be with him in a moment, and she was right there, and he goes, "Mom, it works."
Hey, of course it does. And that's not to say if there isn't the occasional billionaire running around with in shorts and a t-shirt, but all in all, we tend to judge people based on their appearance. Appearance has a lot to do with clothing. And what you wear and how you put it together, whether it's clean and whether it's stylish, and as you say, posture, how you walk, and whether you kind of look and feel confident. Okay, so we've talked about first impressions. What's next? What's kind of next on your if you'd call it, checklist of business etiquette that we should be mindful of?
Okay, what I noticed is that most American men, I should say, a lot of American men, do not stand up when they handshake. If they're sitting down already, they don't seem to get up and handshake. It's crucial. Western handshake is a negotiation tool. It was done before battle, and that's why it was before battle, when the two leaders would get together and they would discuss things before they would go to war. So when they got together, they had to stand straight and look straight in the eye and look puffy and big and strong, and their handshake had to be strong. That was because you didn't want to look weak.
Wow!
Right?
You're absolutely right. Hey, look, we're coming up on another commercial break. I know time goes so quickly, but we're talking about handshakes. You can't just sit down. You got to stand up to do a handshake. That makes perfect sense to me. I am talking to Grace Etsuko Lee. She is businessetiquettemastery.com. The things you need to know about business etiquette that will improve the way you do business. Michael Manahan, your host, BizRap Radio, will be back right after these words. And welcome back to BizRap Radio, your host, Michael Manahan. If you are just joining us, we are talking to Grace Etsuko Lee, author, speaker, international businesswoman, and an expert on business etiquette. Yes, and you can check out her website, businessetiquettemastery.com, businessetiquettemastery.com. And Grace, thanks so much for sticking with us.
Of course.
Now we were
having fun.
Yeah, that's great. We were just talking about how, I've seen this happen. There's two or three guys sitting down at a table. Somebody walks by, comes over to say hello, and maybe one of them introduces the person who's just joined to somebody else, and the person kind of reaches out his hand. But what you're saying is you need to jump up out of your chair and shake hands standing. So that's a good tip. And I've been guilty of that myself. So I'm going to make sure going forward, I shake somebody's hands, I'm going to be standing. Okay, let's have another great idea.
Well, I'd like to just add one more thing. Women do the same. Okay, women in business, because there is 2 handshakes for women. So. Come to my class. Okay. I'll tell you the difference. The other is, everybody meets at we all have luncheons. I know you go to luncheons and network and so forth. And I'm at a luncheon and I am watching people eat with their fingers. And I have to tell you, and if not at a luncheon or even at a business meeting where we're negotiating, it just shows that you have not been taught. It just shows your sophistication. So make sure you do not use your fingers. Use your knife. If you have to use your fingers, pick up a knife and use the knife to put things onto your fork or whatever.
Yeah, we've really lost a lot of the eating etiquette that I think we once had. I was actually at a dinner. About 200, it was a bunch of accounting people getting together. It was about 200 people, and I sat next to a lady. I would say she was maybe around 50 years of age. And in the process of eating, she had all manner of food stuck to her lips. And never once did she pick up that napkin and wipe these chunks of food off of her lips. And it was just absolutely gross sitting next to her watching this go on, but I know what you mean. I've also seen people who, they've got those last couple of peas on the plate and they can't quite get them up with their fork, so they just put their fingers and kind of move the peas onto their fork rather than using their knife to move those peas onto their fork. So absolutely right. Don't use your fingers when you are eating. Any other eating tips for us? Because that's a huge subject, I think.
Well, there's a whole bunch, but I like to give everybody a tip, because when you're sitting at a round table and all the forks and knives and the cups are right next to you, I don't know if you had that experience.
Oh yes.
That the glasses are on both sides of your plate. So just remember that on the right hand side is your drinks, okay, and your left hand side is your salad and bread plate. Usually you have your bread plate. So your right hand side is the drink. So don't grab the left hand side, somebody's coffee cup, or it's going to all get messed up. So it's everything: coffee cup, water, wine, all on your right-hand side.
Yeah, that's a good one. And of course I've seen that many times too. People grabbing the wrong side plate, the wrong glass of water, then everything all gets confusing.
Yes.
My mom had a little saying. It was liquids on the right, solids on the left.
Right.
And so your drinks are always on the right-hand side. And of course that's tough for me because I am left-handed, so my tendency is to want to grab the glass on the left, but no, you got to reach over and get it on the right. So that's another good tip. Any other eating tips that you've got?
We go to cocktail parties a lot, and I noticed that people are walking around with a drink and a plate in their hands. So what you do is when that happens, and then there's no tables to sit down at, it's just these tall tables. So when you grab the food and you grab the drink, go find some place and stay still. Find a table, eat your food, get rid of the plate, and don't walk around and eat at the same time. That's what I'm trying to explain. So find a place, eat your food, put the plate away, put the drink in your left hand, and then go around and socialize. And this way you have your right hand to handshake with.
Oh, that makes so much sense. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I've been to cocktail parties, and somebody's got the drink in one hand, they've got a plate in the other hand, and then all of a sudden they're trying to hold their drink in the crook of their elbow while they use the one hand that's was holding the drink to try and pick up some sloppy, greasy appetizers, and then all of a sudden you come up to them and they're trying to juggle all of this crap, and then at the same time want to shake your hand, and then you finally get to shake their hand and it's all covered with greasy sauce or something from the appetizers.
Exactly. So find yourself a corner and eat your food, whatever you need to, and then go socialize. And if I were you, don't go where people are still eating. Go to the people that just have cocktails in their hands. So those are very important, I think, when you don't look so awkward.
Yeah. Well, I have a little strategy that I've used. I'll often I'll get my plate of food. I don't put too much on it, and I'll go over where other people have plates of food. But then I don't eat my plate of food. I network with the people who are eating their plates of food, and that way my hands are always free. And, it's easier to sometimes engage those people in a conversation. Okay, so that's if you just joined us, we are speaking with Grace Lee. It is businessetiquettemastery.com. Go there, check out her website, buy her book. You really need to be up on proper business etiquette. Okay, Grace, we've got maybe about 3 minutes left here, 3.5 minutes left in this segment. What else should we be talking about and conscious of in terms of business etiquette?
I say integrity. Do what you say you're going to do. Follow up. You can have all kinds of etiquette, but if you don't follow up, if you don't do what you say you're going to do, forget it. Etiquette doesn't even matter after that point. So key point is follow and do what you say you're going to do, and have integrity, and your business will grow. And actually, it'll probably even grow if you don't have etiquette, if you have that part. So that's the key. Etiquette just helps. It just gets people to like you and immediately want to engage with you. But then it doesn't matter if you don't have integrity.
Yeah, well, I think integrity is part of etiquette because a lot of it relates to making promises, and sometimes they're small promises. But if you say to somebody, "Hey, look, I'm really busy. Let me give you a call tomorrow," then you better damn well be sure to call them tomorrow.
Exactly.
If you don't have a system to make sure that happens, then you need a system if your brain isn't good enough to remember. But I really get hung up on that and people who don't follow through. And even if you call me tomorrow and say, "Hey, you know what, Mike? I'll tell you, I know I thought I would have some time for you. I don't. So I'm going to have to put this off. Realistically, it's going to be Friday before I can give you the time." That's fine. But just don't brush it off as, "Well, I said I'd call tomorrow because I thought I would have the time, but I don't have the time, so I'm not going to bother calling." Communicate with that person and explain what's going on. People, if they can't rely on your word, particularly on small things, then why would they rely on you when it comes to giving your company or you tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of business?
Absolutely. Yeah. Reliability is so important. I send out proposals. They go, "Oh, send me your proposal." And then I send it. I don't hear from them. I don't hear, "I got it." Nothing. So it's just like, okay, forget it. It's fascinating.
It is amazing. And I often say to people, look, there's three choices. I'm not interested.
Right.
I am interested, but I don't have time. Or I haven't even looked at your proposal because I'm so busy, so give me another week. I mean, it's real simple. It just, and there's nothing wrong with saying, "Hey, look, I'm sorry. I looked at your proposal. It's not for me right now. Thanks very much and good luck. Why don't you call me in 6 months?"
Right.
But I don't, for whatever reason, we have this dysfunctional behavior. Part of it, I think, is because maybe we just don't want to be negative or we don't want to be confrontational. But I don't know. It doesn't work for me.
It comes off, exactly that, confrontational or just rude.
Yeah.
So that doesn't help either.
Okay, so look, we are coming to the end of this segment. We're going to have to say goodbye to Grace Lee. Grace, thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate it.
You're welcome. I enjoyed it.
And again, it is.
Help people.
I'm sure you're helping people. I know our listeners are very excited about this kind of stuff. It is businessetiquettemastery.com. That's businessetiquettemastery.com. Go to the website, check it out, buy Grace's book. You are listening to Biz Rap Radio, your host, Michael Manahan, and we will be back in a few moments with our final segment of the show. And welcome back to Biz Rap Radio. It's your host, Michael Manahan, and thank you so much for listening to the show today. If you've just joined us, we've been talking to Grace Lee all about social business etiquette, and wow, is that important stuff. I just don't think we have the same etiquette, particularly from a business perspective, that we had, 15, 20 years ago, and I think that's a bad thing. But still, I think it's worth everybody trying to use better social etiquette in business. I think it can help your business. And now I want to talk about something that is very important to small business people and entrepreneurs, and that is capital gains tax. And I see that Hillary Clinton is proposing that the capital gains tax be increased. Now, of course, Barack Obama already orchestrated an increase in capital gains tax. And why is this important to small business people and entrepreneurs? Well, because when we start a business, and over time, that business increases in value, we will not only be taxed on any income that we take every year from the business. After all, we own the businesses. We're working hard. We need to take a salary just like our employees do. So you take out a salary out of the business, and you're going to get taxed on that as regular income. But meanwhile, you're building the value of your business, And at some point, you're going to want to cash out that value. So you start a business. I don't know, let's say you borrow against your 401k or something like that, or you put a second mortgage on your house. You get $100,000. You start your business for $100,000. And let's say 10 years down the road, you sell that business for, let's say, $1,100,000. So you put $100,000 in, you sold it for $1.1 million, you made $1 million. Now, guess what? Uncle Sam wants a chunk of that. And right now, I believe the capital gains tax rate somewhere around 28%. That means 28% of what you just made goes to the government. So all that value you've created goes to the government. And you said, well, is that fair or isn't it fair? And should you be paying? I mean, you paid taxes on all the income that you earned every year that the business was profitable. You paid income taxes on those profits. The business, through your hard work and your endeavor, increased in value. Should you be taxed on that value? Well, here's where I start to run into a big problem with this capital gains tax. Let's say you had $100,000 and you decided that you were going to buy, a condominium to rent out. You're going to buy a condominium, you pay cash for the condominium, $100,000, and you rent it out. And you rent it out for $1,200 a month or something like that. You pay your property taxes and your common area fees, and every year, you make a little bit of profit on that condominium you purchased. And so you pay tax on whatever that profit might be. 5 years down the road, you decide that you're going to move from wherever you live today to another city. And you say, you know what, I'm going to sell my condominium and I'm going to buy something somewhere else, or maybe I'm just going to sell my condominium and not buy anything else. I just want to sell it. So you put the condominium on the market, and lo and behold, now it's worth $200,000. So you sell it, you've made $100,000, and again, you're going to have to pay a big chunk of that to Uncle Sam in terms of capital gains tax. But did you really make $100,000? Don't forget, one of the reasons that condominium went up in value is because of the steadily eroding value of the dollar. Yes, that's right. Our dollar is not worth what it was 5 years ago, what it was 10 years ago. And so as a counter to the decreasing value of the dollar, the decreasing purchasing power, then what happens is a real property like real estate goes up in value. It's an offset to the decrease in the value of the dollar. So are you better off ahead if you sold that condo after 5 years for $200,000? All you could go out and do with the $200,000 is basically buy the same condo that you just sold. You couldn't go and buy something that was better than that, because everything that was $100,000 5 years ago is now worth $200,000. And it's not that it's increased in value for any other reason other than the fact that the value of the dollar has dropped. So you, in effect, if you sell that property after 5 years, you bought it for $100,000, goes up to $200,000. You sell it for $200,000. You pay the capital gains tax, whatever that is, 28% or something along those lines, to the federal government. You now have less money than you did 5 years ago. Why? Because each dollar is worth significantly less. Now, people say, well, but does the value of the dollar really drop that much? Yes, it does. All you need to do is, you can Google this yourself. Check on Google, just type in inflation calculator, and you'll come up with a number of websites that will tell you what the value of a dollar is, and it will amaze you how much value our dollar has lost in just, say, the last 20 years. It's huge, the amount of value the dollar has lost in the last 40 years. And all you need to do is talk to an old-timer, someone like myself who's been around a while. I can remember back in my college days, 40 years ago, I was buying a beer, 25 cents, getting a hamburger, 49 cents, filling up the car with gas, $3. I could go out on a Friday evening with $10. I could drink beer, have hamburgers and fries, maybe go to the movies, and put gas in the car, all for under $10. Now I'll tell you, I live in Long Beach, California. I love downtown Long Beach. If I was to go downtown Long Beach, have a hamburger and a fries, have 3 or 4 beer, and fill up my car with gas, it would cost me $100. Now that is what I'm talking about. The value of the dollar has dropped significantly. So when you buy that piece of real estate for $100,000, you sell it 5 years later for $200,000. You haven't made $100,000. You're barely just breaking even. You're probably not even breaking even after you pay the tax. So in effect, what the capital gains tax does is it really penalizes entrepreneurs, people like you and me who run small businesses, maybe have a few investment properties. No, we're not billionaires. We're not Bill Gates and all the rest of the stuff. But, there aren't enough Bill Gateses around to pay all the taxes that our government wants to spend. It's just the reality of it. We can't tax the billionaires in order to pay everything the government wants to spend. It's just not going to work. So what happens is these small increases in these things like capital gains tax actually hit the middle class, small business owners, entrepreneurs really, really hard. And it's unfair because, in effect, you could end up, after you pay the tax, you could end up with literally less money than you started with in real terms. Now, of course, you go from $100,000, you sold it for $200,000. If you paid the tax, you'd still have about $160,000 or $165,000 left. But that $165,000 is worth no more than the $100,000 that you began with 5 years earlier. Why? Because of government monetary policy that creates inflation, that reduces the value of every dollar that you earn. And, that's why we've got this minimum wage issue. We have to put the minimum wages up to $15. Why? Because when minimum wage was at $10 and at $7, inflation occurred and people can't live off of that anymore because the costs keep going. And why is that? Whose fault is it? Well, it's the government monetary policy that causes the value of the dollar to decrease. So should we be increasing capital gains tax? No, we should not. It is an unfair burden on the small entrepreneurial and small business people in this country. That's my take on it. Mike Manahan, BizRap Radio. Here at BizRap Radio, we believe we can fix the United States of America through a fundamental concept that individuals pursuing their own economic interests in free markets will create more prosperity for more people than can ever be achieved through government regulations and a planned economy. Well, that's the show for this week. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll be back next week with another edition of BizRap Radio.